I'd like to move on then to cued speech. Cued speech is one of those, like C1, that's taken an awful lot of social bashing at our parties and social hours, but is being revisited, especially by a woman whose name you might recognize, Carol LaSasso. She's one of our early pioneers in reading and deafness, and she works in the English department at Gallaudet. I heard her speak 2 years ago at the CAID, the Council of American Instructors of the Deaf Conference, on cued speech, and I've noticed that she has, since that time, published an article about phonics for deaf children. That's roughly the title. In the perspectives, and I believe I actually have that along with me in the reading paper that I'm going to give at this conference, if you're interested in that. And she has really advocated cued speech in the bye-bye movement of a way of providing the English in conjunction with signing an American Sign Language. That's the way that she is currently interested in cued speech. And so she might be a person that you'd be interested in contacting if you use American Sign Language in your program. In 1988, I published a study that sort of began my career as a public speaker, in which I gave the same battery of tests to several groups of students who were deaf or hard of hearing around the country. I had an oral English group, I had a cued speech group, I had a C1 group, I had a C2 group, signed English, Pidgin Signed English, and American Sign Language users who were third-generation students that attended residential schools. And I gave those groups of students the same tests in English language and reading. And I'll be giving you smatterings of information from that study throughout the afternoon. It was published in 1988 in the Volta. It used to be my only publication in the Volta. But just recently I had an article published on technology in there, so I'm branching out. But needless to say, the oral students did very well. I would have never gotten published in the Volta. The cued speech students also did well. When I say that, I mean there was no significant difference in the battery of tests in general. And the culmination of that study and how I expressed my results at that time were that when students comprehend a method of communication, when it's used consistently with them, and when the user, the adult, you, use it to completely encode the grammar of English, then those languages and systems have the potential to facilitate language acquisition for a child. Now that really doesn't come as any surprise, especially in Texas when people are surrounded by bilingualism. Basically it just means that, you know, if somebody has access to Spanish and somebody has access to English, that both those languages can be used around a student and they will acquire those languages. Of course, it's really not that easy because most of us don't sign grammatically completely. You really only have to walk from room to room to room at a school to see how inconsistent we all are. And there is the issue of comprehension. Unfortunately, in deaf ed, we still kind of come into the classroom having graduated out of our teacher training program and say, "Hi, this is me. This is how I sign. Hope you understand it." And that's about the extent of our assessment that we do to see about how well students comprehend. But in my work, when students comprehended cued speech, they were in the right place, it was being used with them, and they did understand it, they did as well as any of those other methods of communication. Now, the methods of communication that I haven't mentioned is doing well are signed English and Pidgin Signed English, and when I get to that part of my talk, I'll talk more about that. Basically, how many people have ever seen cued speech, just so I know how long to spend on this? Okay. So just quickly, and I have a little video clip too. Of course, it's a little difficult to see. The clip I have is a little difficult to see, but basically, cued speech has 8 hand shapes. They are not necessarily they do not necessarily coincide with finger spelling. So for example, this, what we might call a V hand shape down here, you don't see any V there. It's not set up that way, but of course, how many different things can your hands do? So you will see commonality or overlap between some of the ones you might say, oh, but yeah, but this is the hand shape they use with B, and look, it looks just like the manual alphabet B, and that's fine and dandy until you come to N and WH. You take those hand shapes and you put them a particular place around your face, and they cue a sound of our language. And I think what I'll do is just stop there so that those few of you, mostly on this side of the room, that haven't seen this system can just get a view of it. So if you'll get ready to cue up my second tape, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it afterwards. Between some of the ones you... Maybe look at the tracking a little bit, maybe. Whoa.
Now remember, I won't